Yeah, so, who's, somebody with Channel 9?
Yeah.
Yeah, so y'all did a,
That's the one you.
yeah. What year was that? Yeah, this is, 2011, I'm sorry. And I don't know how many, I mean, there's been numerous people that have been ruled out, you know, people over the years that have come forward and thought this was maybe their, you know, some of their family or something that they've ruled out. In fact, just 2 days ago, Cleveland PD had a case of a missing person from about the same time period that they ruled out with fingerprints. So, who we're waiting on?
No, Tim's got it going on.
Yeah, I've already given them all the, I've already given them all the information, so.
I already have you mic'd up. Are you talking?
No, Tim is.
Oh,
Yeah.
all right.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm just here to.
So what would the next steps be, like if a family thought this was one of their loved ones? I mean, how would you?
So they could contact, there's 2 or 3 different organizations they could contact to talk to the people that they need to talk to. They could contact us through 1-800-OHP-TIPS, which is our tips line, or they can contact the medical examiner's office. They have people that are assigned to this case also that can assist them. But Mike Nance with NamUs, the National Missing and Unidentified Persons Project, is they maintain all the information on these types of cases, and they have people that can assist with the DNA and such. So there's several different people that can be contacted that we can assist anybody that wants to submit a DNA sample for comparison. So.
Are we the only two that are we all fully everybody here?
Yeah, I think we're all here.
Okay, are you guys ready?
Yeah.
Just get your first and last name. Can you spell it, please?
Trooper Tim Baker, Timbaker.
Okay, and we are here today. There's something that's going on regarding an unidentified Jane Doe. What's up?
Yeah, so we've been working this case for about a year now, and have had a couple of developments that we'd like to share, and maybe get the public's help in getting this case cleared up and getting our Jane Doe identified. So the case is a cold case from 1990. A semi-truck crashed on 259 in southern LaFleur County. A black female passenger was killed during that collision and has never been identified. We have, over the past year, worked with some different agencies, and we obtained an exhumation order for her remains, and for the purposes of DNA. And we were recently notified that a DNA profile has been developed for our Jane Doe, and is currently being ran through several different DNA databases like CODIS. As of yet, we don't have any associations for that DNA, but we're hoping that we can generate public interest in this, and if somebody believes this may be their loved one, we encourage them to submit a DNA for analysis so that we can rule that person out.
This was 28 years ago. This might sound like a crazy question, but why now?
Well, first of all, there's been advances in DNA that allow us to make those types of associations, familial associations. We don't have to just match DNA to that person. We can get an association within a family member, and then identify that person that way. This case has been profiled in the media before. we didn't have some of the information that we have now. We have, through the investigation, we discovered Jane Doe's ring, the only possession that she had been maintained over the years by the funeral home, Evans and Miller Funeral Home out of Poto, that had handled her remains back in 1990, and they had the foresight to maintain that. And when I contacted them last year, they were able to provide that ring to us. So now we have that available to put out there, so that if somebody recognizes that ring, maybe might be able to connect it to somebody. So.
Now, do we know anything about this woman? I mean, you were talking about how through some research you're able to find out that she, I guess, had a child and things like that. What can you give us as kind of the basic profile of this woman?
Okay, well, she was 25 to 35 years old. She was pretty short, about 5, I want to say 5'1", and she didn't have any belongings with her. She did have a C-section scar, so we can make the assumption that she likely has a child or children out there somewhere. The story that we were given, or that investigators back then were given, was that that the truck driver picked her up at 55th and Euclid in Cleveland, Ohio, and you know, that's pretty specific, and so upon further investigation of that, you know, I discovered that there was a Salvation Army facility there, which, you know, possibly she had been at, you know, so that's really all the information we have on her. I mean, we can draw assumptions from that, but she was obviously not from here. So when this case was ran in 2011, I think it was mainly pushed to the media here in Oklahoma. I don't think she's from Oklahoma. I think she's from farther east, you know. So hopefully we can get this story out to some other states that can push it through the media there, that you know, maybe somebody would recognize her or recognize the ring and contact us.
So we're looking at a black female, small stature, didn't weigh too much, who had a cesarean scar. For you, I know this is part of a bigger picture. I mean, we talk about how DNA has become a real tool now for helping identify John and Jane Does. For you personally, being involved in this investigation and learning about this woman, do you have a particular attachment to it and hoping to find out who she is and who she belongs to?
Sure, and as have other people that's been involved in this. I'm not the only person that has worked on this case over the years, and it becomes personal when you spend a lot of time trying to identify somebody like this, or trying to find closure. You know, it's important to me to at least put a name to this person. You know, hopefully there's family out there that she had that would be interested in, you know, knowing where she's at or providing her with a proper burial. But you know, for me personally, yeah, it's I would love to see this case come to a close by identifying her and getting her back to her loved ones.
Now, she was buried where?
She was buried at a cemetery in Poto. Yes, in an unmarked grave. Yeah. So when I started trying to when I looked at this case, the one piece of information that we didn't have was DNA. There were dental records and fingerprints for her, but we didn't have DNA. So that was kind of my goal when I started looking at this case, was to work towards obtaining a DNA sample. And you know, let's face it, for us, for the Highway Patrol, that's kind of not in our, you know, not what we are out there doing every day. So it was kind of a learning curve at first, but we figured it out and worked with the DA's office down there in LaFleur County, and ended up getting a exhumation order after we found the unmarked grave where she was buried at. OSBI came and with their ground penetrating radar and was able to actually determine where her unmarked grave was at and marked it for us for future reference so that we could come back and exhume the remains.
Okay, and the status now, has she been reburied now?
No, so the medical examiner's office will maintain custody of her remains until we locate a family member, at which point they will be provided to the family for reinterment.
Now, you spent a lot of time on this. How long has this whole process been for you for this particular case?
Well, I have had this case for a little over a year. It was July of last year when we exhumed her remains, and the DNA process takes a while. So they had to extract the DNA or the bones that they hoped would obtain or would contain the DNA, and they sent that to the University of North Texas, their Center for Human Identification. They have a program down there that is funded by the federal government to handle the DNA in these types of cases, and so they perform the DNA analysis, and they're the ones that notified us recently that they were able to actually obtain a DNA and develop a profile for our Jane Doe.
Now,
So.
the picture here that we have, this rendering, is this something that's new, or does this go back to 1990?
No, so the composite that we have was made by Harvey Pratt, the OSBI sketch artist, and that was made from the medical examiner photos. I was told that he has since over the years touched that up for us, but that composite was made back when the case was fresh. So.
Some people have come forward and helped rule some people out, right?
Correct. Over the years, there's been several people that have contacted the medical examiner or NamUs in hopes that there was a match to their loved one, and there's been several people that were ruled out. As a matter of fact, just a couple of days ago, Cleveland PD had a missing persons case from right about the same time, and that person was ruled out by fingerprints. So.
What do people need to do if they think this could possibly be?
So if anybody has information or wishes to provide a DNA sample, there's a couple of different ways to contact the appropriate people. First of all, they can contact us, Oklahoma Highway Patrol, through our TIPS line, 1-800-OHP-TIPS. They can contact the medical examiner's office, either here in Oklahoma City or Tulsa. Angela Berg is the anthropologist who has been working this case for many, many years, and has a special interest in seeing it through also. And also, Mike Nance is the local contact for NamUs, and there's people can go to the website for NamUs, which is namus.gov, www.namus.gov. This case is actually on there, so if they wish further information, they can visit that. But NamUs also has people that can work with individuals to submit DNA or any other information that they want on this case. So.
Tip number for OHP is 866 OHP-TIPS.
866. I'm sorry, 866 OHP-TIPS, not 1-800. 866 OHP-TIPS.
No more questions from me.
Good.
Well, the reason then to bring this to the public now, is it because there is this DNA profile now
That's the big push. I mean, that hopefully, I mean, that's the big reason. But once again, we just want to revisit this case and you know, social media is, it makes spreading the news and media, you guys, getting this out there to people that maybe we couldn't reach in years past. So we're hoping with the new information that you know might generate some renewed or new interest, and might reach that person that we're looking for to close this case.
So is she at the medical examiner in Tulsa?
Yes, yeah. Her remains. Angela Berg, once again, was the anthropologist that worked on this case, and she, once we exhumed the remains, she took custody of them, and they are maintained at the medical examiner's office. So
they contract with the North Texas University?
Well, it's actually, the way I understand it is once again, they receive federal funding to do that, so I don't think, well, we don't have the capabilities and the resources, they do that. That's their, you know, correct me if I'm wrong, Captain, is that, they provide?
That's exactly right. The University of North Texas Center for Human Identification, the medical examiner's office from around the United States will send, if they don't have the ability to extract DNA in their state, then they will send remains to Fort Worth. And at Fort Worth is where they extract and then create a profile. And that profile is uploaded into CODIS. And the interesting thing about this is a lot of times, or several times, you could have family members who say, I think I know who that is, but if that requires me to give my DNA to police, right, I may have done something before in my life that I don't want the police to know about, okay? And the really interesting thing about this is, when we're looking at unidentified human remains, that section of CODIS, right, does not check against the criminal side of CODIS. So a family member can actually give their reference sample, right? And even if